Nice work, everybody. That was like a 20-minute warm-up. We done did it. We did the thing.
We did the thing. Everybody grab a drink, get settled, stretch out anything you have going on. Take acknowledgement of your body. Let's take a deep breath in on the count of 4. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4. Blow it out. 2, 3, 4. Thank you so much, Richard. That was amazing. And for anyone that has questions about any of those moves, please, please, please let us know. Throw it in the chat, either chat, watching both chats right now. And as our panelists get settled in, we are super excited to hear from everyone as far as what is going on. So, as we know, this year has posed so many new challenges for performers of all ages and stages in their career. While showing our unique and innovative ways of going on, many, many actors are now being asked to translate their craft to the work for camera. So let's discuss a little bit about choreography moving forward in these new and interesting ways. Audience members, don't be shy. Put your questions in the chat. Questions for us, questions for Richard, questions for organization, any of those things. But our panelists have some really lovely questions. Richard, give us a thumbs up if you're ready to move forward. Okay, great. So Carson, why don't you take it away for us?
Yeah, so Richard, I was wondering, how do you find motivation during quarantine, whether it's dance-wise or anything else? Really?
Richard, did you hear that question?
No, I'm missing it. I can't hear you, Carson. I'm so sorry.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Like a little bit. Hold on. Let me see if I put my face next to the speaker. What you got? Tell me.
Okay, I'll try to talk really loud. I was wondering, how do you find motivation during quarantine, especially for dance, but really for anything?
Oh my God. Okay, yes, I love that question. Yes. I'm gonna real talk you. There was a moment when when the pandemic first happened, yeah, and we were working on Sister Act, and then Sister Act got canceled, and then summer shows got canceled, and then fall shows got canceled, and then winter shows got canceled. So in that order, just domino effect. And so for me, I'll be honest, I lost a lot of inspiration and motivation to do anything. I kind of became extremely sedentary. I sat around, it didn't do a whole lot. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, all right, what are some other things that I can do to like engage my creativity? So I got into like learning about the music, composing music for video games. And took a couple of classes on that. And that for me kept me like creatively engaged. Like I was like, oh, okay, I'm stimulated. There's something here that I can like sink my teeth into. But as far as like physical movement, I had stopped for, I'm gonna say like 5 months. Like, you know, maybe a walk here or there, but like straight up stopped. And towards the end, I noticed how much it impacted not only my physical health, but my mental health. You know, I live on the 5th floor of my apartment and I don't have an elevator. So I would walk up the stairs and I would be winded. And I would be like, all right, well, this never happened before. So maybe we need to take a good long look at ourselves and check in with our life choices. Thing that helped me was when we kind of opened things back up in August. Yeah, because then we could kind of come out. We kept our masks on. The job that I work at a gym. And so the gym reopened and like they had the policy where it was like you had to work out with your mask on. And so for me, being in a space where like I could move again was a huge, huge help in terms of like finding motivation to stay physically active and physically engaged, because this space that is built and dedicated for you to do that reopened. The other thing that really helped me stay motivated was that I teach at Cornish. And so I have students here and like I told myself when I took this job, I was like, I refuse to be a person who is not physically fit enough to get through their own warm up and then expect my students to do it. So that was a huge motivation for me. And then also like when things reopened, I had an opportunity to like really take a second and look back on like what my mental state was during the summer. when everything first closed. And I just want to preface this by saying that I am not a licensed like therapist or mental health practitioner expert, but I found that physical activity was really helpful for me and my mindset. And then also reaching out to people like loved ones, like family members and really, really good friends, and just being like, hey, this is where I'm at. Like, how are you doing? Like, can we check in? Can we see what's going on? And long story, extremely long, those are the things that kept me motivated to be physically fit.
Thank you for sharing such vulnerability. And you know what? I miss your hugs. I miss seeing you on the street. I miss hanging out and grabbing coffee. So
I miss hugging people. I really miss hugging people.
I definitely resonated with me when you said when everything shut down. I just stayed in bed for 3 days after my 6 shows, and every show in Seattle plus Broadway was canceled. It was really heartbreaking to just keep going. And I know that we're all creating this new normal, but we do have to do these daily, weekly, monthly check-ins with ourselves and our loved ones. Check in with your strong friends, as a meme once said. Catherine, what do you have for us? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, during quarantine, in addition to participating in Village Theater Institute program, which is an amazing program, I've also created and taught dance classes for children over Zoom. And then also my friend during the summer reached out, was like, hey, I'm doing an online Zoom musical. Do you want to be in it? So I've also been doing that, which was fun. And then other than that, for fun, I love to just harmonize with my sister when we do the dishes. And take walks with her too, to stay physically fit.
Thank you for sharing that. Did you also have a question for Richard?
I did. Richard, my question is, what advice would you give other young artists and me who are interested in choreography?
Well, that's a real good question. I would say find inspiration in the things that you do day to day. I find that when I'm walking places, I have like my headphones in, and that is when choreography comes to me. And I do not care. I will stop in the street and I'll work something out real quick, like to myself. Like I don't break out into full dance, but I work it out for myself so that I can come into a studio later, like here, because I have the privilege of using a studio and like hashing that out. When it comes to working with students virtually, and showing them choreography, what I have found to be helpful is kind of checking in and seeing what each specific person needs. Some people are able to look at what you're doing head on and like mirror reflect what's happening, because that's kind of what Zoom does, is it flips you. So if you're trying to pick choreography up and I'm like, my right arm, when they see it and they try to mirror it, they're like, your left. So some people are able to do that super quickly. Other people have communicated like, if you face away from the camera and then you do what you need to do, that is helpful. But yeah, choreographing and like trying to do anything movement based on Zoom is extremely challenging. And my advice is to just check in and see what everybody needs and how you can accommodate them.
Thanks.
Fabulous. And it sounds like both of our panelists are doing so much in regards to online choreography. Carson, what are your questions in regards to choreography and moving forward in your career as a high school student?
Yeah, well, I actually had a question about when you Sorry, I'll get close to the camera. When you choreograph for musical theater, I was wondering, what's your process for making the choreography support the story or the characters? Because, it's one thing to just dance, and it's another thing to have the choreography be part of the story. So what's your process in working that out?
That's a really good question. That's an awesome question. And it is something that I try to be very mindful of. To be honest, I like to start with the circumstance leading up into what's happening choreographically. And for me, working at Cornish and working with the musical theater students at Cornish has been a privilege, because what it allows me to do is it allows me to generate and create movement, and then work with people to establish what their character is in that world and then explore how that character would do that movement. And then from there, like exploring what scenarios come up in the choreography, like what are some things that I may have missed while I was generating this movement that come to light when I watch somebody who's embodying a character do that movement, and proximity to somebody else who's embodying a completely different character. And so for me, that is my process. Also, I would encourage you to be in communication with like the other creative people on that team. The director, the music director, like, hey, so what is your vision going on? Like, what's your vision happening here? How much dance do you want? Do you want it to be more movement? Like I encourage people to check in with the person who's steering the ship, which would be the director, so that you can use just the right amount of energy and that you know how to channel and focus that energy.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
And Catherine, I'm gonna bounce it back to you. You guys have really great questions, by the way. So that's why I'm like, I can hold my questions till the end. Catherine, what question do you want to lead with?
Yeah, my next question would be like, making a living from the arts is challenging, especially during this pandemic for every artist. They understand that. And I actually, before the pandemic shut down one of my musicals where I debuted as Mimi in Rent, and that was all about struggling artists. So my question to you is, how do you find like being an artist and a choreographer? How do you, and a dance educator at Cornish, as you said, how do you feel like that allows you to make a living? And if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, I will be 100% transparent. I'm very lucky that I have the job that I have here at Cornish that allows me to exercise my creativity and dance and move. Because my other job is working at a gym, yeah? And so I think there are some people who have nailed the hustle and have figured out like how to evolve themselves to fit in this era that is the pandemic. Hashtag thanks COVID. But you know, for some of us, like for me, like I was like, I don't know what to do. I like literally, I'll be very honest. I was like, I guess I will go back to this job. Like, you know, when I was working at the Fifth and like, you know, like when things were quote unquote normal, I like my job at the gym was extremely part-time, and I would like go and I would do a contract at the Fifth, and I would maybe like work once a week at 24 Hour Fitness. And then when everything shut down, I literally called my manager and was like, listen, when this gym opens up again, can I just be like full-time all the time? And then I got called by Cornish like a few weeks into the semester, like halfway through the first quarter, I would say. And they were like, hey, are you interested in picking up some of the classes for the musical theater department? And I was like, yes, please and thank you. And so that's been my journey. But you'll find that everyone has navigated these waters differently. Vast differences.
Thank you for that transparency. I think that that's one of the things that we as artists are told consistently. You are signing up to be a quote unquote struggling artist. And I will say that I lived in that for a long time. I'm now 15 years into musical theater of the hustle and bustle, 3 years as a full-time artist. And I just got this job at a institute. But that being said, it is a hustle and bustle. And so thank you for asking that, Catherine, because that's a reality. And it's hard because this is our passion, right? We want to do this. We want to create. We want to tell stories, and we want to express it using the gambit of musical theater because it's so much fun and it's so beautifully reality and yet not. And so, yeah, that's just a constant conversation. And for those artists who have been doing it, know your worth and ask for your worth. Orlando, I hear that we have some questions from the audience, please.
Let's see. Okay. Well, here's one question. So from nowadays, a lot of schools and students are doing these Zoom types of performances, right? With virtual choirs and putting things together. I don't know. Do any of our panelists, have you participated in one of these like Zoom musicals or Zoom virtual choirs? And so we're starting to see a lot of choreography, and I am starting to see it. So I know it's not musical theater per se in the same way that in a stage we have a space and there's a stage. But so this question is like, do you have any tips for people that are being faced with having to do some Zoom choreography, and do you have any like creative solutions or ideas of how to approach, choreographing for this little box there?
You're muted, Richard.
Oh, is that for me or is that for the panelists? I was like, take it
No,
away, panelists.
that was for you.
It's for me. Okay, I'm present. Here we are. Again, total transparency. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that myself. Let's be real. When I give choreography I haven't choreographed like a Zoom musical, but I've had to work in a classroom where the majority of my students were virtual, and so I had to teach choreography virtually, and that is extremely challenging. And then, people are in all kinds of different spaces. A lot of people are checking in from their rooms. A lot of people are checking in from their home, maybe like a living room. So there's not a whole lot of space for them to operate in. And so what I try to do, or what I try to be mindful of, is I try to do choreography, or try to set choreography that can either move or just be really in place. So it's lots of ball changes, lots of like box steps around yourself. Some people are on carpet, and so I'll be like, give me a double. And they're like, I can't on my carpet. I'm like, well, then pull it up into a fierce passe, make it work. And that's what I have been doing as far as like choreographing for people, or sharing choreography and having people perform choreography on a Zoom platform.
Thank you, definitely.
Yeah.
Carson and Kat.
Kick it. Oh, sorry. I think you're gonna just do the same thing as me. I think either Carson or Catherine might have some ideas on that too, because they've had to be in those boxes.
Yeah. So sorry, can you hear me? I know it's hard to hear me, but I think it's kind of, as hard as it is, once you get used to it, I think it's kind of a blessing, because you get to be a lot more specific. It's like choreographing a movie musical. You get to be a lot more specific and add a lot more detail to your choreography. And I think that's really nice, because there are a lot of times that you wouldn't get the opportunity to do that on stage. And I guess it just like I guess I don't have any specific things to say about it other than that, but I think that's really nice, because it just lets you explore different parts of, different ways to choreograph. And I think that can also transfer to, once the world's back to normal, you can get more ideas about your on stage choreography too. So I just think, I don't know, that's a positive side of it, I guess.
Yeah, I would add there are some positivities. Definitely, I love dancing in person because you get to be with other people. And that's the cool part, is you get to dance and get to watch other people. And sometimes it's hard on a little tiny screen. But what I found I love doing, like when I teach dance classes, or when I have taken like master classes or workshops, because as an artist, you're always learning. I would say is like, it's cool when you ask someone you have like half of the participants turn off their camera, and then you watch the other half, and you get to watch and, I don't like the word, but steal ideas, but get inspiration from each other. Because that's the whole thing about like art and doing dance, is you get inspiration. So I think that's another cool thing about Zoom. Another thing is like, you can be creative with like a camera, like different angles. Like when you're doing a live performance, the audience are there and they get to watch it. But with a camera, like you can get creative. Like you can have the camera up here, get a bird's eye view. Like I think that's the kind of a cool thing about having a camera, is you get different perspectives, which you can't always get with live art.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to add too, as I'm currently the artistic director over at Roosevelt High School for their current shows, is we are actually just embracing the fact that the camera's there. So thank you for bringing that up, Catherine. And how can we play with this as our scene partner? And also what Richard brought up makes me think of accessibility needs. Most of the time when we're in a room, we tend to either forget or look at the larger picture. But since we're in these little boxes, we actually only get to look at one person at a time. And so it's really specific, as Carson said, and it's really intentional. Absolutely. And any other questions from online before we move on, Orlando?
I have not clocked any, so yeah, unless anybody has any other things, I think we're good to move on to the next thing.
Great. All right. Well, that accessibility and focusing on the camera is a really great way to end our discussion on that, and an amazing note for our Q&A. Thank you guys in the audience for hanging out with us. Thank you on Facebook for hanging out with us. My Facebook's over here. And also, can we get a either silent or physical round of applause for our special artist guest, Richard Peacock, who we hope to see on stage again soon. And again, thank you out there for joining us. If you're into Fridays at the Fifth, please, please, please consider supporting it. We're committed to offering Fridays at the Fifth for free, but there is a cost associated on our end because Richard, as he pointed out, needs to eat. Please consider donating if you're able to. Text Fifth 5TH to 56512 to receive a link to donate, or Orlando's going to drop a link in the chat. Before we sign off, Richard, is there anything that you'd like to shout out? Any special someone you want to shout out, or anything's going on over at Cornish?
Oh my God, yes. Well, first I'd like to shout out the Fifth Avenue Theater for putting this on. Boop, boop. Thank you guys so much for having us and for creating this platform. I would like to shout out the other musical theater teachers, the musical theater dance teachers at Cornish, Liz McCarthy, Solvay, and Trina Mills. And I would also very, very much like to send a shout out to Tinka Daly, who is the person who usually teaches all of the classes, all the musical theater dance classes at Cornish, with the exception of the first years. She is a legend. She's a legend, y'all. And if you ever have a chance to work with her, you are a very, very lucky person and you should treasure it. Yeah.
Thank you. And how about you, Carson? Anyone you want to shout out? Stage is yours.
No one in specific, but like Richard said, thank you to Fifth Avenue for putting this on, and also just any artist and choreographer and director and teacher out there that's having to, adapt to the weird times that we're in right now. I think it's really important to recognize people like that. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Shout out to the choreographers. And Catherine, how about you?
Yeah, shout out again to Fifth Avenue, all teachers, choreographers, directors, everyone. But additionally to parents and siblings for listening to me when I'm singing at the top of my lungs or dancing full out in my room. And they're like, what are you doing?
Yes, definitely shout out to supportive family members. You guys are our rock. You are holding us down when we feel down and out and doubtful. Thank you. Please just encourage us to keep going. Encourage the young people to keep going. You are all amazing. Your teachers rave about you. So I'm so glad you both had this Friday off to be here with us. How about you, Orlando? Anything that you would like to shout out?
Yeah, just thanks to our analysts today. And Richard, it's great to see you again. I'm gonna do a quick shout out to Creative Advantage, who is a partner. It's a partnership between the Office of Arts and Culture and the Seattle Public Schools to make sure that there's arts programming in all of our schools here in the Seattle area. They're doing some really great things during this quarantine, and one of them is a series of panels. And so there is a panel coming up on December 14th. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. It's called Creative Teaching That Matters, and it's a youth-led panel that is all about young people talking to teachers and educators about what they need right now, especially in regard to arts education. So it's going to be a really great discussion. It's on Monday, December 14th from 5 to 6 p.m. Probably on Zoom, I think. So all the information is right there in the chat. It should be pretty dope. So hope to see you there. And thanks to Aviona for being our host today and for hosting Into the Future. So excited to have you. And thanks to you all out there in internet land for kicking it with us. I know one day we'll be back at the theater, but until then, let's continue to wash those hands, move your bodies, stay safe, make art, keep having real conversations about what's happening in our world and our country and in our communities. And yeah, just generally keep on keeping on. happy holidays, because we're not going to see, we ain't back until after the holidays. So happy holidays. Be safe. Follow the recommendations, okay? And if y'all do that, we'll see you next time. So thanks, everybody. Y'all can unmute and say bye.